What is up everyone, Movie Worm back again with another video, and today is going to be my top 20 movies of the 1990s. Now this is by far my favourite decade in film. I know how fun and amazing the 80s is, and I recognise how brilliant the 70s is, and I wouldn't really argue with anyone who said they're the best decades, but for me personally it's the 1990s because it just has so many bangers in there. Now this is by far the hardest list I have ever had to come up with because I wanted to do a top 10 initially, and there was just no way I could do that because I was leaving out so many movies, so I turned it into a top 20. However, I do have over 10 honourable mentions here. I could have made a top 30 here, but the video would have went on for a long time, so I'm just going to do my top 20 of 1990s. Now just keep in mind, gotta say it every video, but this is just my list, okay? There is some amazing movies left out here, which I'll probably get into the honourable mentions in just a second, that have not made this list for personal reasons. So everyone's list is probably gonna be different. You'll be hard pressed to find anyone who matches my list. In fact, I don't think there is anyone who would, mirror my list. So let's just get into some honourable mentions. Not going into any details about this, I'm just going to name them because there are so many. Okay, so the two big ones that I did not include are The Usual Suspects. I know a lot of people love that film, but I've only ever really seen it once and it doesn't hit me as much as it does with everyone else. Maybe because I seen the ending first. And Schindler's List, another film I've only seen once. I recognise how amazing it is, but it's not one of my best, in all honesty. And here's the rest, I'm just going to name them off now. Scream, Candyman, Home Alone, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Face Off, The Mask, Blade, The Craft, In the Line of Fire, Menace to Society, Casino, Toy Story, Carlito's Way, American Pie, Jurassic Park and The Witches. So let's just get into it now. Number 20. Number 20 is going to be Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now, arguably the first movie overall is the best in this entire franchise, even though it is an 80s film. But Die Hard with a Vengeance is the most rewatchable to me, and the main reason for that is the chemistry on screen with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. I absolutely love this duo, the way they're always arguing back and forth, but they've got to work together to dispose of these bombs planted around New York City by Jeremy Irons' character.
Now you got about 10 seconds before those guys see you. When they do, they will kill you, you understand? You are about to have a very bad day.
And it's just a fun movie. It's got everything an action film should have, and there's just so many great sequences here as well, where Bruce Willis trying to get a bomb off a train, and then we've got, Jeremy Irons' character trying to rob this bank, take all the gold, while he's caused this big diversion by saying there's a bomb in the school and stuff. I just absolutely love it. It's full of great one-liners and stuff like that, and it's just your typical great 90s action film, which I absolutely adore. I've seen this so many times. One of my most rewatched movies ever. So number 20 is Die Hard with a Vengeance. Number 19 is going to be The Shawshank Redemption. Now I'm guessing the majority of you watching this video have seen this film. It was number 1 on IMDb for a while, I believe, and you will be hard pressed to find a better prison drama than this, although there is one for me which you may see on the list later on. But this is really about Andy Dufresne, who has been wrongly imprisoned in this high security prison called Shawshank, and the prison warden, just really, is a real hard ass. He's got these prison guards who push people around and stuff, but it's got lots of great characters. It's got a very moving story in there with lots of emotion and stuff, and the Shawshank itself has just got lots of different stories to tell, but you really do want to see Andy Dufresne get his freedom back. He does not deserve to be in this situation that he's put in, and you really do see things start to work out for him a little bit as his time in this prison goes on by this blossoming friendship with Red, played by Morgan Freeman. But what I always remember about this film is this old guy who's been in the prison for such a long time, and he finally gets let out, but he doesn't really want to go out because he's so used to the prison, and he has to work in this supermarket, and he asks the boss to go to the toilet, and the boss says, oh yeah, you better hurry up, huh? You better hurry up and get back here. And he goes, I don't think the store manager likes me very much. I just feel so bad for the guy. But it really is one of the greatest movies of all time. I mean, if anyone comes to me and says, this is the greatest movie ever, I'm not really going to argue with them. And it has got one of the best movie moments of all time with Andy Dufresne in the rain there with his arms out when he finally gets freedom. So The Shawshank Redemption is number 19. Possibly my favourite animated movie of all time, and that is Aladdin. Yes, I mean, I've seen this so many times as a kid, I can watch it as an adult now. It's just one of the most famous Disney stories out there, isn't it? This is such a colourful movie as well for its time. I mean, it just got so much going for it as well, with Robin Williams as the genie, all these great characters. Prince Ali, obviously, the main protagonist, is just amazing with his monkey Abu and stuff. And you know, it's got that simple concept there of finding a lamp when you get a genie to grant you 3 wishes, stuff like that. I mean, you know, it's a lot of talk, isn't it? I mean, if you had 1 wish, what would you do? You know, so I like the way it takes that simple concept and stuff, but there's so many great moments in this movie with the Cave of Wonders. I mean, I remember Abu really wants to grab that jewel there, and as a kid I used to think I can't blame him for picking that up because it looks so bright and colourful like the whole movie does. A great villain in Jafar, you know, one of the best Disney villains that's ever been created, I feel. They don't really go that sinister with the villains no more these days, and that's what I love about this movie. You know, Jafar is just a bad guy, end of. You know, there's no good side to him really, but just a really brilliant story. And we've also got Aladdin as well, trying to win over Princess Jasmine. It's just got everything in this film, and it's so funny at times as well. So number 18 is Aladdin. Number 17, like Die Hard with a Vengeance, is going to be one of my most watched movies of all time, and that is Speed, starring Keanu Reeves. I absolutely love this movie. It's such a high-speed thrill ride, excuse the pun, from start to finish, and the title definitely lives up to what it says it does. Now, this is basically about Keanu Reeves, who's got to get on this bus and keep it above 50 miles an hour and try and stop this bomber in Dennis Hopper who's planted this bomb there, and no one's allowed to get off the bus or anything like that. So it's just constant thrill rides throughout, and there are moments where they've got to jump a gap in the motorway there. You know, there's times where it's about to drop under 50 and you're kind of like, oh my god, you know, it's a very tense film. But I absolutely love Keanu Reeves in this role as Jack Traven. It's definitely my favourite performance of his, you know, and he's done some really great ones, but I just love him in this movie. And he's got great chemistry with Sandra Bullock, who drives the bus, and Dennis Hopper, like I mentioned, he is a great villain in this film. It's just got everything an action movie should have, and I can watch it anytime. Definitely in my top 3 most watched films of all time. I just used to have the VHS, you know, on repeat there. You know, and I've watched my Blu-rays so many times and everything. It's just a fantastic film. So number 17 is Speed. Number 16 is going to be American History X. Wow, what a brilliant drama this one is. This is basically about Ed Norton's character, who is this big racist who everyone knows in America. He's like one of the top skinheads, and he goes to jail for a few years there. And while he's in jail, his brother Danny is trying to follow in his footsteps. But while Ed Norton's in jail, he starts to see a different side to this human that he's become, and you know, that he was probably in the wrong there, and he doesn't want his brother to go the same way. But I really like the way the movie jumps back and forth between present time. So we see Ed Norton's character get out of jail, but we also see his jail life as well, and the movie goes black and white when that happens. So it's a really good dynamic of what the movie does to tell this story. And you know, it just shows you that hate is not a good thing whatsoever. And the final, quote of this movie, what Ed Furlong does, is just one of the greatest quotes in movie history. And I do feel like a lot of people who, just are full of hate or on social media arguing all the time over things that don't even matter could just read this quote and learn a little bit of something there. But this is a fantastic film, and we cannot forget that curb stomp, can we? Wow, what a shocking moment of movie history that is. Even though it's all off screen, you feel everything that happens in that scene. So yep, I have to put American History X in there. Number 15 is going to be Leon. What an incredible movie. This is about a hitman who takes this young girl under his wing because her family is murdered over a debt they owe by Gary Oldman, who is an unreal villain in this movie. Everyone! Yeah, I mean, Jean Reno is just great in the role. He's like the perfect hitman, but he's trying to train this girl up to be, because she wants to sort of get revenge on her family as well. But it's just got a really good, storyline involving these two. This girl who's just come into his life, basically, and he's got to look after her, even though he's got a lot going on himself. And yeah, it's just one of them films that you don't really see much very often no more. I mean, it's just this original concept that just works in every single way. And I just love it to bits. I just think it's an absolutely brilliant movie. And that ending, the way Leon hatches this plan to get out of a situation that he's in, is absolutely epic. I love that moment of the film. It's just a brilliant ending. It really is. But two great characters, Natalie Portman, great as the young girl there, and Jean Reno as brilliant as Leon, with Gary Oldman as this incredible villain in the movie. So highly do recommend Leon if you haven't seen it, at number 15. Number 14 is going to be Silence of the Lambs. Now, this is one of the most atmospheric films on this list, if not the most atmospheric. What really does it for me is you don't really see a concept too much where a detective needs the help of a serial killer to catch another serial killer, and she's interviewing him and stuff to find this other guy who's out there. I mean, there's a guy out there skinning women, and she needs the help of a cannibal to catch this guy. How twisted of a concept is that? But it just works so well. This is a brilliant crime horror story. Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins in these roles, who are just absolutely so memorable as this cop and bad guy, if you like. And it's what really does the atmosphere for me is, no matter where Jodie Foster is in this world, there is a killer out there who is kidnapping women, and you can feel that presence all around the city and stuff. I mean, there's a moment where she's jogging through the woods as well, and you kind of feel like he's watching her a little bit there. It's just got a great score and everything to go with it, and it's a creepy ass film as well. And when something happens with Dr. Hannibal Lecter later on, Anthony Hopkins' character, this guy who's skinning people, Buffalo Bill, becomes the least of their worries. So there's a lot going for this film, and I just think it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Thriller movie? No, this is a horror. This is about a guy who skins women and another guy who bites people's faces off. You don't get much more horror than that. Number 13 is going to be Seven from David Fincher. One of his best movies for sure. And this is basically about this killer going around who is committing 7 deadly sins on these people that he deems to be punishable. And there's all certain different ways that he's doing it. Like, I think it's gluttony, is it? Where he's feeding this big, large, obese guy, feeding him to death with a gun pointed to his head. And this other guy who is just, lying in bed for over a year because he's lazy and stuff like that, and he's sort of just dying in this bed. And it all comes together at the end. The third act of this movie is arguably one of the best third acts to a film ever, but it's all about Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, who are these two detectives. One is this young, ambitious detective, and the other one is retiring at the end of the week. So they are opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what their job entails there, if you like. But they have to work together to catch this absolute maniac who's running amok in this city. And this is another one, like Silence of the Lambs, that is very, very atmospheric. And I will never forget that moment later on where John Q just goes into that police station there and says, "Detective!" and gives himself up. It's just, wow, what a moment that is. But yeah, if you can see this ending coming, I would be inclined to call you a liar. Otherwise, you're a very, very, brilliant Hawkeye, because I didn't see that coming in a million years. So yeah, number 13 is Seven. Number 12 is going to be another Keanu Reeves movie, The Matrix. Now, this is a sci-fi action epic that was a little bit ahead of its time there. This concept of us in this sort of computerized program, if you like. This is not the real world. The real world is something that has plugged us in. It's a concept that, hadn't been really done before, not from what I'd seen anyway. And the fact that it all turns into this kick-ass kung fu, fighting type movie as well, just adds so much to it. Seeing Trinity, Morpheus and Neo just kicking ass against these agents is always a joy to behold. And this also has a brilliant third act to this film where they have to go and try and rescue Morpheus from the Matrix. And some of the shootouts we see here, one of the most brilliant movie moments of all time, the bullet time where Keanu Reeves leaning back dodging bullets. It's just all fucking epic, isn't it? And definitely one of the greatest movies I have ever seen. So that just had to be in this list, and that is The Matrix. Number 11 is going to be Quentin Tarantino's debut movie, Reservoir Dogs. And what he done with this script to put it on screen with the budget he had was nothing short of extraordinary for a first-time director. You can just tell he had this vision and he went with it. He was so confident in what he was doing, and he basically puts these 6 or 7 characters together who've never met each other, and they're all put into this job to commit a diamond heist. And what we see in the film is before the heist and the aftermath of the heist, because it's all gone wrong. And what I love about it is it just takes place mainly in this warehouse, and they're trying to figure out what happened, and there's a little bit of a rat amongst them there, because how could the cops have known about it? But I just love the whole dialogue through it. Quentin Tarantino is the master of dialogue, and he creates some good characters here, especially Mr. Blonde, who basically is just a bit of a madman, really, played by Michael Madsen. Definitely one of the best Quentin Tarantino characters I think I've ever seen in any of his films. The kid should play so rough. Someone's gonna start crying. An absolutely brilliant film, and my second favourite Quentin Tarantino movie. Number 10 is going to be Misery. Now, I only watched this for the first time a couple of years ago, and I will have to see it again just to confirm this, but this might actually be a 10 out of 10 film, and I don't give too many films a 10, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. From start to finish, I was just absolutely gripped to the screen, and a lot of that is down to Kathy Bates' performance in this movie. But this is basically about James Caan's character. He's this famous writer, and he is in a car crash, and Kathy Bates' character helps him out. He can't walk because he's been badly injured in the crash, and lets him stay in her home, and they can't really go anywhere because there's this big snowstorm that's happening and all the roads are cut off. But she happens to be his biggest fan, and she will not let him leave this house, put it that way. She will lie to him and stuff, saying that help's gonna be coming in a few days, even though she hasn't actually called anyone. And she just wants him to get on with his next story, and she's the first to read it. But we know that she won't let him leave the house because of certain scenes in this film. The infamous, woodchuck scene there, you all know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like American History X, the curb stomp, where you just go, oh no, I can't look at that. But what really made her character stand out for me is the first time she loses it, when James Caan spills that soup on himself and she just goes crazy, and it's like, okay, it was an accident. And then I just like, wow, this is some performance, this. But yeah, just an absolutely brilliant thriller movie. I absolutely love it. It's just this, this secluded cabin that you are sort of stuck in just adds to that, claustrophobic feel, if you like. But an absolutely brilliant film from start to finish. One of the best Stephen King adaptations by a mile. So that is Misery. Number 9 is going to be Forrest Gump. For me personally, this is Tom Hanks' best performance that he has ever done. And he's done some great performances in the past, even bad films that he's in, he elevates them a little. And I don't think this is his best movie, but I do think it is his best performance. And I just absolutely love watching the life of Forrest Gump unfold in front of our eyes. And he's a little bit slower than everyone else, but he tells his life story at a bus stop to these people who don't really want to listen, but they become more interested as the story goes on, like we do ourselves. And this film's just got everything. His life that he has gone through here. He's gone to Vietnam, he's in love with a girl, Jenny, he becomes a table tennis ping pong champion, all by just following a few orders, really, and just saying yes to a few people, if you like. I mean, it's amazing seeing what really does unfold in Forrest Gump's life in this film. It really does. But it's just got so many great moments, so many great characters as well. Lieutenant Dan, played by Gary Sinett's there, and we've got Bubba, who's just another brilliant character we meet in Vietnam as well. I just absolutely love this film. I do. It's a brilliant movie, watching this man's life from at a very young age to when he's at the point in his life that he is now. And he even meets Elvis in this film as well. If you haven't seen Forrest Gump, you gotta see it. One of the greatest movies of all time. Number 8 is going to be American Beauty. Now, this is probably the hardest film on this list to explain what the hell it's about, but it's basically a soap opera put into a 2-hour film. We see Kevin Spacey and Annette Bening in their struggling marriage with their daughter Jane, who makes friends with the guy next door, who's a little bit strange, and there's something more than meets the eye with this guy. And she's also got this friend who is basically in love with herself, who uses Jane to make herself feel better about herself. That's all. That's it. That's all there is to it. But there is a reason it was nominated for so many Oscars, and including Best Picture, and being a Best Picture winner there, because it's a masterpiece. Somehow Sam Mendes turned this simple concept into a masterpiece. You just have to see it for yourself. Number 8 is American Beauty. Number 7 is going to be Fargo, a movie I watched at quite a young age. My uncle used to babysit me sometimes, or I'd stay at his house, and his friend John came down one day. I've told this story a few times on the channel, with this VHS of Fargo, and he said, look, this film's amazing. So my uncle said, go ahead, we'll just throw it on. And we just had a great time watching this. Even though I was a young age, I was laughing my ass off at the black comedy here, even though I didn't get some of it, just because my uncle and his friend were laughing. But to be honest, I absolutely adore this movie. As time's gone on, I've watched it so many times. I've got a poster right over there in my room of this movie. I just love it so much. It's one of the most rewatchable films I've ever seen. Definitely the best Coen Brothers movie in my opinion. It basically just sees William H. Macy's character, Jerry Lundegaard. He wants these two criminals to kidnap his wife. And he says to these two criminals, hey, Dad has got lots of money. I'm going to get £80,000 off him, or $80,000. I'm going to give you 40 and I'll keep 40. You give me my wife back. But what he's not really telling them is he's going to ask her father for $1 million and just give them 40. And of course, everything goes wrong. Everything goes up in the air and his plan just goes to absolute shit. But what I really love about this film, Frances McDormand, you know, she is great in this movie. She really is. She only comes into it halfway through, but no one really ever talks about Steve Buscemi's character, these two criminals who are hired to kidnap William H. Macy's wife there, because he's got one of the best arcs I've ever seen in a movie. He's kind of this little bit of a wimp, even though his sort of friend, played by Peter Stormare, is just crazy. And he doesn't really want to hurt anyone, but by the end of the film, he is so pissed off with everything going wrong that he's just fucking shooting everyone, man. He just turns into a fucking madman.
Is this a fucking joke here?
I love that arc in the film, but it's an absolutely brilliant story, but dark comedy works so well, and I love the theme tune. The soundtrack is immense. I can listen to this theme tune all day. In fact, if there was one theme tune playing throughout the rest of my life, I'd want it to be Fargo, just in the background there. Number 7 is Fargo. Number 6 is going to be Goodfellas from Martin Scorsese. Definitely his best movie in my opinion. I've seen this so many times. My dad actually bought me a load of gangster movies when I was about 14 or 15 when I first got a DVD player, and I just went through them. You know, The Godfather, Godfather 2, Once Upon a Time in America, and Goodfellas, of course, was one of them. And I just absolutely fell in love with the movie straight away. I've seen it so many times since. I actually went to cinema a few years ago, and that only enhanced my experience of it. I knew it was a good film, but when I got to that cinema, I just appreciated it even more. This is a film where the characters and script are just written out so well. Everything just works. Everyone plays their part. You know, Robert De Niro is unbelievable in this as Jimmy Conway. One of the best movie moments in history, where he thinks about killing Maury and he's just smoking a cigarette there looking at Maury. I mean, only that guy can make smoking look cool. And you got Joe Pesci, who won Best Supporting Actor, didn't he? Because he's just this real fucking scary guy in this. He just takes no shit off anyone. It's just the ultimate mob movie. It really is. With so much entertainment thrown in at the same time. I love how Martin Scorsese, you know, builds these scenes in his film. He does it with a lot of movies like Casino, The Wolf of Wall Street, but it's just like very quick scenes, but they tell a story in a perfect way. And I absolutely love it when films are narrated as well, which always helps. Number 6 is Goodfellas. Number 5 is going to be a Tom Hanks movie that is his best film in my opinion. Not best performance, but his best movie, and that is The Green Mile. Yes, when I said about the Shawshank there was another prison film, I was referring to this one. And this is basically about John Coffey, who has been accused of, or he's been convicted, of murdering these 2 young girls, and he is put on death row, where Tom Hanks is this prison guard, and there's a lot of other death row mates in there. But this is a 3-hour movie that seems like a 1.5-hour movie. It absolutely flies by. And just seeing Tom Hanks sort of connect with these death row inmates. He's got the prison guards in there who were kind of his friends. There's this absolute arsehole called Percy, who's one of the prison guards, who torments all the death row inmates and stuff. It's just about life on death row in the 1930s. It's just got so much charm to it though. So much story aspects going for it. It's got a bit of fantasy thrown in there. And one of the saddest endings you will ever see in a movie. I honestly cannot recommend this film enough. It is a 10 out of 10. Absolute masterpiece there. And if I had done my top 10 films of all time, this would just miss out at 11th. You know, I've got it on my Letterboxd there in 11th, but it is a 10 out of 10 movie. It's just an absolutely brilliant movie that you want. Everything in a prison drama, if you like. Yeah, just one of the greatest dramas ever put to screen, and that is The Green Mile. Number 4 is going to be Heat. I watched this not long ago, and it is absolutely a flawless movie. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, cop, robber, trying to bring each other down. What an absolute brilliant movie this is from Michael Mann. An absolute masterpiece. And you know what? Al Pacino and Robert De Niro are my 2 favourite actors of all time. But a lot of people when they tend to bring up Al Pacino's best performances, don't really mention this one, but I think he's absolutely brilliant in this. This will be top 5 Pacino performances for me. I love how much Vince is just so out there, you know, he's always screaming and shouting throughout the movie. It's so funny.
She got a great ass. And you got your head all the way up it.
And De Niro is just this cool ass, you know, confident character who is this mastermind of robbing banks, and Al Pacino is just getting that little bit closer to him there. But it's got so many great scenes in Al Pacino and De Niro in that coffee shop, just having a conversation, sort of, you know, feeling each other up there. It's just an amazing movie moment, one of the greatest movie moments ever. And then right after that, you got the greatest shootout ever put to screen. Another 3-hour masterpiece that kind of just flies by. A 10 out of 10. Absolute masterpiece for me. That is Heat in number 4. Number 3 is going to be Fight Club from David Fincher. Once again, he's got a couple of movies in this list, hasn't he? Now, this is a film that I didn't really gravitate towards when I first watched it, because I just thought this is going to be a film about a fight club, and it is for a little bit. There is so much more to it than that. And upon rewatch, it's grown to be one of my greatest films of all time. Now, this basically is about Ed Norton's character who's kind of lost in life, and he meets this character from Brad Pitt, and they form a fight club together. But it sort of goes way further than that later on in the third act, and it's got an unbelievable twist to this movie as well. But this is my favourite Ed Norton performance. I just think he's such a great actor, and I wish I could see him in more. But it's also my favourite Brad Pitt performance as well. These two on screen just work so well together. It's a fascinating story, and David Fincher puts it together so well. It's just absolutely epic, it really is. From where we start off with these characters to what it finishes to, it is some storyline. Just a brilliant film. But I'm going to have to move on now, because the first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Number 2 is going to be Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino's number 1 movie for me. I am an absolutely massive fan of this film, and for somehow every time I watch it, it just seems to get better and better, and I don't know how that's possible when it's already, in my opinion, a perfect film, but I just spot little things every time I watch it. I absolutely love it. This is a perfectly put together movie. The way these stories all tell their own little thing, but all intertwine and go back and forth with each other as well. I mean, 1 minute John Travolta's fucking dead, next minute he's in the movie again. I mean, it just is all put together so well. It really is. But so many great characters in this. Jules Winfield, is it? Played by Samuel L. Jackson. Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. You know, it's just got everything. It really is. I mean, I've seen people on the internet say this movie is overrated and stuff. I just don't get that at all. I really don't. This is a perfect film, and one of the greatest movies of all time. Top 5 in my opinion, for sure. So number 2 is Pulp Fiction. Number 1 though is going to be James Cameron's Terminator 2, the greatest action movie of all time in my opinion, and he is just the king of sequels, isn't he? He'd done it with Aliens in the 80s, and he'd done it with Terminator in the 90s, and this time we see Arnold as the good guy. The way he's turned it on its head, James Cameron, a little bit there. I like the way he does that with his sequels, and he's got to protect John Connor from this absolutely menacing villain, the T-1000, who is one of the greatest villains ever put to screen. And you know what I love about the T-1000 as well? He doesn't make them bigger than Arnold or anything. He went the total opposite way and made him this skinny character who's kind of like this cat looking around. I mean, James Cameron did actually say that's what he loved about Robert Patrick there. But I love all 3 protagonists as well, who are kind of on the run from this guy. You got John Connor, Arnold himself, and Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton, who for me personally I think is the best thing about this movie. It's so badass when she escapes that mental asylum. She is a character who's gone in a totally different arc now from the first film. She's this sweet innocent young girl in the first movie. In this she's just this kick-ass action hero. And it's just got everything. It really has. The third act of this film is something that reminds me of why I love movies so much. Everything from the Cyberdyne building escape to the end of the movie is just absolute cinematic genius. I love everything about it. There's not a thing I'd change about this movie, and it is definitely one of the greatest films of all time. So number 1 is Terminator 2.
Stay here. I'll be back.
Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this top 20 1990s movies. I had a lot of fun putting this list together, even though it was very hard. A lot of fun going through some of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion. An absolute golden age of cinema. What are your favourite 90s movies? Do you agree with this list? Do you not agree? You know, leave your top 10s or top 5s down below. I'll try and reply to every single one of you, I promise. And please consider subscribing to this channel and giving this video a like and a share. It would really help me out. Thank you so much guys. Take it all easy, and if you want more top 10s or whatever, they'll be down below as well. And I'll see you all next video.